I think we should just have him do rails and coach before it starts the show. I said, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea, but we can give it a shot. And, well, woo! Maybe he was on to something. Maybe he was on to something. Good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn. He's Griffin. And yes, the Chief Grand Prix. Woo! Stan the Fan Charles. But apparently not feeling very Chief-like today. Feeling perhaps a bit disrespected today.
I would say that would be the term I would use.
Now, are you directing that fully at Griffin or a little bit at both of us?
No, Griffin entirely. I didn't know you were at the game.
I was on the opposite side of the arena. I was in section 106 with the children. Right. I saw you and Luke and Matt Schlissel and Patrick over on the who's who of sports media.
I started talking to Patrick about his immaculate grids. Mm-hmm. He produced one. He had a 0. He had a 0. How can you get 9 players of that up to 0?
You know what? We play a different game with him every week when he comes on, where we try to see if he can name all of the teams. And there are players that when I say we've been doing this for like 7 years, so we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for guys that we can use.
Right.
And the rule used to be it had to be someone who everybody had to have made at least one All-Star game for them to qualify for the list. But unfortunately, we're running low on those guys. So now it's just, have you heard of this baseball player ever, more or less, is the way that it goes. And I get to some of these and I say to myself, there's no way.
Right.
There's just no way. There's no. For example, this week we did Sidney Ponson.
Good old Sir Sidney.
7 teams for Sidney Ponson.
7 teams. The Orioles and the Giants. Mm-hmm. Didn't he pitch for the Yankees briefly?
He did pitch for the Yankees for a little bit, yeah.
Beyond that.
That's about – I knew one other.
Right.
I knew the Minnesota Twins. I remember that.
I forgot,
reason.
I do. I remember that, but I didn't remember.
What I didn't remember is that he was also a Ranger, a Cardinal, and a Royal. But, of course, give it to Patrick and – Unbelievable.
Well, like yesterday, the Atlanta Braves. I know we're interrupting
whatever.
your flow.
What were we going to do?
But the Atlanta Braves had an MVP. So I'm going, well, maybe Eddie Matthews. And I always check the players out first. No MVP for Eddie Matthews. I didn't want to use Hank Aaron. All I could come up with.
Terry Pendleton would probably be the.
Did he? I think he won his MVP with the Cardinals.
I think he was. I'm going to double check, but I'm pretty sure he was a Brave when he won MVP.
Okay, he might have. I can't say that I know that for a fact, but I ended up using Dale Murphy for 16%.
Okay. Yeah, Terry Pendleton in his first season as an Atlanta Brave, 1991.
Really? Okay.
NL MVP.
Patrick used somebody from the Boston Braves.
And by the way, he also stores things specifically for the grid. Like, he'll tell me, I know who all of the players are who played for, like, all of the NL West teams.
Right.
So that I can have that stored away.
In his back pocket.
For the grid. It's wild, man. Wow. Well, it was a great night last night over at Towson as the Tigers, they were down 15 in the second half, and boy,
30-2 run.
Yeah, just your casual, complete flip of script to go from
it was
down
an amazing
15 to
game.
Up 20 in the second half. And they do win the CIAA. There's so many.
Outright.
They
win it outright.
Yes, they win it the regular season outright. We already knew they were going to be the #1 seed, but
they cut down the nets.
They did. This is the first time they've ever won a CAA outright regular season title. Now they still have to go prove that they can win 3 games in 3 days in D.C. next weekend and into the following week. That's something they've never done before. They're going to have to change that, but a remarkable season, particularly given how sluggish they started and all the injury issues they went through. The way that they turned it around in conference play has been remarkable.
Really good for Pat. I mean, obviously feel good for the players, but I've known Pat for a long time now.
Well, yeah, we love Pat. I got to tell you, too, like, I was sitting with my kids were part of the pregame tunnel, like the high five line.
So you're saying they're the reason they won?
Yeah, I think that they were.
Or is it the opposite?
Yeah, because the first half wasn't great.
Yeah.
That's a good point, man. It might be my kid's fault. That's totally possible, and they might never be allowed to come back.
Well, made a point of going over. It's the first time I've seen Jimmy in a long time, Jimmy Patsos, and I feel bad. Spiro Marikas.
Yeah, he was very
sick yesterday. Hopefully he's better. I heard he had like 104 temperature. But I said hello to Jimmy Patsos, and Jimmy says, make sure maybe you could do a big story about Towson, in press box, do a big story about him. And make sure you mention that it really turned around when I started doing the games.
Sure, yeah, right. That is the moment that we'll look back on.
I guess he's right.
Everything changed when Jimmy took over.
I hear he's going in to negotiate a new deal.
This would be the time to do it. Although you saw how well that worked for Feinstein when he saw how well that worked out.
Yeah, but they've got flow money over at Towson.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they are bringing in the big bucks on the monumental deal. I'm pretty sure that changes everything. Great night. Incredible crowd. Apparently, they announced it as the largest crowd in Towson history. Now, I was there for the first game against Temple. There definitely were more people in the building that night.
That was 10 years or
literally the first game ever played in the arena. But what I would say is, I think the place was packed last night. There was no doubt.
That was the most packed I've seen it.
Yeah, it was packed. And on top of that, there were a few students who came, scanned, and left because they just wanted their hockey jersey. So I think combined with the fact that I do find it to be believable that it might have been the largest crowd in arena history.
It was large enough that somebody could diss somebody in the crowd.
Could just completely say, yeah, I'm good.
Avert.
I'm good here tonight.
Hey, Griffin.
Yeah, right?
Hey, Griffin. Hey there.
By the way, my kids saw Griffin on the way into the building.
Right.
And
dissed him?
They just ran. They almost tackled
the other
him.
thing.
He dissed him?
No, he definitely did. For like 3 minutes, they were like, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Griffin. Nothing. Didn't even turn around. Just was... all he was thinking about is whether or not he got there in time to get his hockey jersey.
That is accurate. That is accurate.
Answer is no. He didn't get there in time to get his hockey. But that's all he could think about. And so the kids are like screaming,
Mr. Griffin.
Dad, it's Mr. Griffin. Dad, you know him. Like they're doing the whole thing. And he's no-selling the whole, he's dead set on, I got to get wanded so I can get my hockey jersey. And
this was well after. This was at halftime.
Stan, if I'm being honest, if I'm being fair to Griffin, I don't know that he recovered from the disappointment of the hockey jersey.
Okay.
I think that he was in a dark place for the rest of the evening.
Didn't appear to be. He was chatting very amicably with the young man. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were breaking some news here about a young lady.
There's nobody.
You led me astray on that one. I was like, tell me more.
No, he wasn't with his sister.
No. Oh, no. Great night. Congratulations to Towson as they do win the CAA regular season title outright. And now we'll see what happens. They do have one more regular season home game on Saturday against Hampton. And then they have the CIAA Tournament. They will play their first game next Sunday down in D.C. in the CIAA Tournament. And they will be the 1 seed for that. And I guess that now means that William and Mary will be the 4. And it'll be Wilmington, Charleston, whatever.
Yeah, because Campbell lost last night. Yeah, so
I'll let you figure that math out. Coming up on the program today, we will talk some college basketball. We'll talk some Terps, as Bruce Weber was in studio the other night, and he will share with us his reaction to Maryland's heartbreaking, shocking loss to Michigan State, and Trey Holloman's half-court buzzer beater, but the former head coach at Kansas State, where he had Selton Miguel once upon a time, as well as at Illinois. Bruce Weber will join us this morning from Big Ten Network. Bo Smolka will check in with us. We'll get his reaction to everything said by John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta out in Indianapolis this week. I know Bo wasn't out in Indianapolis, but much like us, he certainly heard everything, and we'll see what he makes of everything that was said about Justin Tucker and Ronnie Stanley and the tight ends. So we'll go over that with Bo, and then later on this morning, it is CIAA weekend, and it's been a great week all week. Griffin, remind everybody, still time.
That's right. Baltimore is welcoming the excitement of the Food Lion CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament to CFG Bank Arena once again. And time winding down, just 2 days left. It started on Tuesday, and it is running through Saturday, tomorrow, March 1st. Get your tickets now over at Ticketmaster.com. First game today. The first women's semifinal, Virginia State taking on Bowie State. And yeah, go ahead and get your tickets. Again, Ticketmaster.com for the Food Lion CIAA Men's and Women's Basketball Tournament over at CFG Bank Arena. Started on Tuesday, runs through tomorrow. Tomorrow, the final day of the
championship
tournament.
Saturday tomorrow. Men's and women's championships. I believe the men's championship is also live on ESPNU. So on TV tomorrow. But yeah, make sure you get down there and check it out. Speaking of which, Hall of Famer Bobby Dandridge is in town to be a part of CIAA tournament festivities. And while his alma mater is no longer part of the CIAA, he certainly knows all about the experience and how much it means. So Bobby Dandridge, Basketball Hall of Famer, will join us a little bit later on this morning as well. All of that coming up here on a Friday edition of the program, plus the thing you demand this week in the rest of baseball, which I don't know. Stan didn't tell me.
Oh, I didn't.
Are we doing dueling twibs?
Not today.
Okay.
Not today. I chickened out.
Oh man,
Stan.
Yeah, I
talked a
chickened
big
out.
game. You said you didn't think Griffin could handle it.
Yeah, well, I forgot.
And then you bailed.
Somebody needed to remind me.
Oh man.
Somebody needed to remind me.
Man.
It's a despicable.
Stan.
Yeah.
Well,
I let you down.
This was an M&M situation.
I let you down.
You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow.
Oh man.
And vomit all over the sweater. Unfortunately, this is the look back on. This is the moment.
There's no chance I'll get another.
I don't know. I'll think about it. But this was.
I mean, I am the grand poobah.
I understand, but he got dissed last night. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like,
Stan, if I know you were there.
I'm dissing him back now.
This is what it is?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
He's going to abstain from
the opposite,
this week in the rest of baseball.
I don't think he wanted you to infringe upon his territory.
No, that's
I think
true.
that he's very...
He's very comfortable in his territory.
I wish this would have been the week for Stan. There was not much.
You needed a little help?
Yeah, there was not much in the rest of the world of baseball this week.
I'm sure I can come up with something.
Oh, I've definitely got plenty.
Come up with a little.
But nothing that, no rule changes or, TV deals getting declined this week.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. That's a good point. Like last week, the night before, there was all sorts of stuff that sort of got dumped in. Nobody updating their facial hair policies this week. Nothing.
I got overtaken with grief on the passing of Gene Hackman.
So I was talking about this with Colson yesterday. I hate the fact that see if you can pull up the Hoosiers clip, the measuring the hoop. That's my favorite Gene Hackman clip of all time. And then a couple people were telling their Gene Hackman Baltimore stories yesterday because of course they filmed the replacements here in Baltimore. So Gene Hackman.
Was that with Will Smith?
That was Keanu Reeves.
Oh, that was the football. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the Enemy of the State? Was that?
Yeah,
the Will Smith movie they filmed in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But a lot I did see on social people telling that. But it was a weird day yesterday because there was so much confusion about the way in which Gene Hackman and his wife and their dog passed that it almost.
Do we know any more yet? We know it was not carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, but we also they said they ruled out foul play, but
I have a very good friend of mine who lives in New Mexico, about a half hour from Gene Hackman, which certainly doesn't give her any greater insights. No, but she had a very interesting scenario that he had a heart attack and somehow passed out, and she came in and he was dead, and that they may have had a pact that she would she takes the pills and leaves the pills out, and the dog eats the pills.
That's possible.
I mean, I don't.
Or given the amount of time that apparently the bodies were there, I think a lot of people are assuming that the dog simply starved. Like that they were.
They think they were there. Like
apparently there was mummification on their bodies. Like, they think that it had been some time, and that's the sadness is that instead of yesterday, Gene Hackman's 95 years old.
Right.
He lived a complete and full, incredible life.
Right.
And so
instead of just mourning that and celebrating him,
Hackman,
you're confused as to
spent these last 24 hours just totally distressed by this story.
Yeah, and his wife was only 63.
And that's incredible. Like, far too young that his wife passed. Gene Hackman at 95.
73 too young to pass?
Yes, still 73 is too young.
I'm 70.
I agree, and I would say that until you're in your
Griffin still
mid to late
73-year-old
I think
man.
until you're into your mid to late 80s, we would say it's too young for someone to pass. Yeah. And even I'm not trying to.
I don't use the word young. Too soon.
Too soon. Fine. I'm good with whatever you want to say. Too soon.
Yeah.
for someone
should
to
never happen.
Yes, should not happen.
Should not happen.
I've got you for at least another 2 to 3 years. So anyway, what I'm saying is, it really bummed me out yesterday because I think we all, like yesterday I thought about like we should do some Gene Hackman on the show, but then what if we hear that like this is something untoward and like I don't want to find out that like they killed their dog, like that would be awful. And I'm just really bummed out by the fact that instead of it being a day of celebration for Gene Hackman and this incredible life that he lived, it became
mystery.
This other thing. But my absolute favorite Gene Hackman, I mean, like Gene Hackman's brilliant and everything that he did was brilliant, but I think for a lot of sports fans, Hoosiers is particular. It's part of the reason why, like, the first time I went to Indianapolis, I went out of my way to find out I could go to Hinkle Fieldhouse. Like, I wanted to be there, not just because Drew Forrester was going to slap high five with Brad Stevens going by, which was my kids made the high five line at Towson last night. The night we went to Butler, there was a high five line. Drew snuck over and joined the children in the high five line. It's one of my favorite moments ever because I looked around for a second like, where the hell is Drew? And not even as a bit. He's standing in the high five line, high-fiving Brad Stevens as Brad Stevens is walking to the floor. And I couldn't even be mad. I just genuinely couldn't be mad. Do you have it?
Yes, I do.
This is, to me, measuring the hoop at Hinkle Fieldhouse. It's my favorite moment from Gene Hackman ever. I guess it doesn't play as well as an audio medium as I thought that it did, but you know,
everyone can see it.
Yeah. Well, not us, oddly. You'll get it.
There he is. He's measuring.
You can see, right?
Yeah, I can see in my mind's eye.
Stands like
looking around.
Beautiful.
Yeah, big arena.
It is.
That's acting.
Correct.
Hold this into the backboard. What is it? 15 feet. 15 feet. Strap, put Ollie on your shoulders. Measure this from the rim. Buddy? How far? 10 feet. 10 feet. I think you'll find it's exact same measurements as our gym back in Hickory.
Yeah, I don't know how much more of this we can use, so we'll cut it there.
Let's get dressed for practice.
I've referenced that scene a million times when doing like broadcasts. When somebody goes somewhere else, I'll say, I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in movie history. That no matter where you are. Basketball. It's just basketball, right? Wherever you're playing the game. And it's the same concept when you're doing something else. Somebody steps up to play a big team in lacrosse or in baseball or football, something like that. So same field. Well, I guess not baseball. They all have different fields. But, you get my point.
I got it.
You get my point. One of my favorite films of all time, Hoosiers. And obviously it was a love story to Indiana basketball. And, the genius of Gene Hackman. And, yes. Very, very sad.
My favorite performance by him was in The Conversation.
Okay.
Just an absolute brilliant performance by Gene Hackman, who played what would you call it? An electronic person.
Yeah.
Eavesdropped on people. He was hired to plant
a surveillance expert.
A surveillance expert who gets surveilled upon. And it's just a brilliant movie.
I saw that conversation going yesterday. Like, what is Gene Hackman's definitive role?
Right.
And I think for sports fans, everybody goes to Hoosiers. Like, I think for people in our walk of life, but I don't know how the casual.
I mean, he was brilliant in Hoosiers. There's no question about it. One of my favorite.
But is Lex Luthor his definitive role because it's Superman? Like,
not for me.
Sure.
For me, I had a third movie of his. I loved. Well, French Connection was unbelievable.
Right, of course.
First French Connection was unbelievable. conversation was fantastic, and this movie called Night Moves. Does that ring a bell?
It rings a bell, but I don't think I ever saw.
He played a detective, a Los Angeles detective named Harry Mosby, who was a retired NFL tight end who had played for the Los Angeles Raiders.
Okay.
And he gets hired by this aging film star. You know, she's like in her 70s or something like that. Her daughter has run away. And her daughter is played by Melanie Griffith, when Melanie Griffith was like about 19 or 20 years old. And she ended up leaving L.A. and ran down to stay with her stepfather in, like, Florida, in the Keys. And it's just a great detective story. James Woods is in it. Night Moves.
Night Moves.
Great.
Okay.
It's got one of my favorite lines of all time in a movie is Gene Hackman and the stepfather. The stepfather, they're talking outside, and they hear the shower running, and they're eavesdropping on his stepdaughter. And Harry Mosby, played by Gene Hackman, is just standing there. He wasn't like snooping, but that character is looking at Melanie Griffith naked showering.
Okay.
And he goes, Harry, and he goes, Mosby, there ought to be a law against a body like that. And Gene Hackman goes, there is a law.
Yeah,
statutory
right,
rape.
of course. That's great. Safe home, Gene Hackman, and grateful for all of the art that man gave us, and what a brilliant, truly artist he was. And again, yesterday I felt bad because we just didn't really spend a lot of time on it because I was still so confused by all of the circumstances. I still am, but I do. I appreciate you bringing it up this morning because I wanted to spend time with it. All right. It was a rough night for Maryland the other night. Hell of a game that just came apart in the final seconds based on a bad shot decision and then a lucky, whatever you want to call it, heartbreaking shot at the buzzer as Michigan State won. This man was in studio for that game. We know he's the president of the Selton Miguel fan club. He is Big Ten Network analyst, former Kansas State, Illinois coach. He's Coach Bruce Weber, and he is with us this morning here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn, and Stan Charles is in studio with me this morning. It's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, it's good to be on. And then it was a heck of a game. I don't know if it lived up to the hype that we were all expecting because I really thought both teams played hard, but probably a little too emotional, especially early.
Mm-hmm.
And then well, they settled down, but it wasn't the cleanest game, but it was exciting. And obviously, as you talked about, just heartbreaking for Maryland, the last couple plays. And, I'm not sure, Tom Izzo's team did play really well. There's no doubt. Second half, their defense, they took that lead, but they did let it slip away. And then you have, it's just kind of basketball. It truly had a feeling of March Madness to me, from the beginning, the emotion of the game to the ending when you got the buzzer beater, that, what you're going to hopefully see. Well, you saw last night again with Michigan game, and you've seen it a bunch in the Big Ten, and I'm sure you're going to see it a bunch in March.
Coach, a few things that I wanted to run by you. You mentioned both teams are just kind of like off kilter. They didn't look like themselves, and it seemed to start to me with when Selton picked up that second foul really early in the first. I mean, like 3 minutes into the first half, and we have beaten to death the conversation about Maryland's depth, right? And we've gone over and over and over about it, and I have accepted all of the. Hey, in the NCAA tournament, you don't go as deep on your bench anyway. But it really has felt like that's where it hurts them, is that early in a game when they have to go to the bench, they're just not as good, and they were not sharp offense. And I don't want to take anything away from Michigan State's defense because they were great, but they're a different team when they have to go to their bench because they just don't trust the guys that are coming in.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, we actually talked about it in the studio before the game, and not only this one guy. If you get two guys with two quick fouls, it really could disrupt them, and you hope that doesn't happen in the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament. But I think for them to go through that I think it's a great experience, for them as a staff to go through it and how you're going to manage it, because it could happen and you still want to survive. I think Coach Willard said a great thing on one of the interviews. Hey, every game is different. You got to figure out a way to win games, grind it out. Other games are pretty and free flowing, and you're making shots. You try to find a way to win those. But if you want to advance in the tournament, you might have to win in different ways. So they're going to have to figure it out. There's no doubt it's a factor. I had their game against Minnesota in January, and they actually, the bench actually did some good things. I think when you guys come off the bench, they can't make mistakes, and they have to play hard and make the little plays. Geronimo had the big block. If Harris just makes little plays,
the one wide open three, it was such a big moment to me, Coach. That one wide open three, where they're daring him to take it. They're saying, we're not coming anywhere near you. And if he just makes that shot, it probably changes things. It forces them to pay more attention to him, and it opens things up. But, you don't want to criticize one kid for missing one shot, but I thought that was, in hindsight, a big moment.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And Fears jumped up and made his three,
right.
And they were daring Fears to shoot it.
Yep.
So, but I would tell you this: your best player's got to play better. Mm-hmm. And Queen, I think he's been so good, and I love him, and I really think he's definitely earned be one of the top, if not the freshman of the year in the league, one of the top couple. There's no doubt. But he struggled, and you could see maybe that moment. Was maybe it just took a toll on him. And part of it, again, give credit to Michigan State defense. They are really, really good. They've done it, now through 3-4 games in a row. They're holding people way under their average. I think before the last 4 games, it was 65 a game they've held people to. So now with this 5th game, now you're talking about getting people to around 61, 62 a game. And that's impressive in this day and age, especially in this league, which has been a really good offensive league. And obviously the Terps have been really good offensively all year.
Bruce, Stan Charles, pleasure to meet you and talk to you. I've long admired you. Derek Queen, tell me where you think he is development-wise, and I understand there's going to be a lot of money sitting there for him, but do you really think that him leaving college to go to the pros is the right long-term move for him after just 1 year at the Division I level?
I would tell you there's a lot of kids, not just him, that should not go, that aren't ready, but they, when the money is so big,
yep.
If he's going to be a lottery pick, you have to go. If you're going to be at end of the first, beginning of the second, now with NIL, it's comparable.
Yeah.
You're going to make more money than a two-way player. And, I think and the problem is he may not know, and you're dealing with agents, and
yep.
you're dealing with guys telling him things, and, is he ready? He's really good, and he's so smooth, and his ball skills and even his defense. You'd be I was surprised how good he was defensively. When I had the Minnesota game, Garcia, that's one of the best players in the league, and he punked him a little bit. He bodied him, kept him out of the lane. So that part of the game really surprised me. But his three, you saw it the other day, they dared him and he shot him. I think in a regular game without that emotion and that, maybe he doesn't shoot those and just goes, makes a play. So again, to answer your question, I think so many kids go early, and if they don't get with the right teams, they end up being just another story that no one heard, so I hope he makes the right decision, because I like him. I like him as a young man. He just kind of calm, cool. I interviewed him after the game when I had him, and I was surprised, almost a little bit naive, just a good, wholesome kid, which makes me feel good.
But you think he would benefit from another year at this level?
not just him. There's so many other kids too, and it just takes. And I'll go back. We had Glenn Robinson, who became the number 1 pick, and he was going to be the first when I was at Purdue, first $100 million guy. Glenn, he made such huge steps going from the first year to the second year, and then he became the number 1 pick. So it benefits guys, and again I lived it. I was part of that. I've seen it, But again, we're in a different era. We'll have to see where he's projected, and I don't follow the draft that closely, but I haven't seen him in the top part of it, but I'm sure he, when the workouts come in that, maybe he'll have a better feel of that.
He is Bruce Weber, and he is with us this morning here on GCR. Coach, I wonder, something like this happens, particularly Jacoby Gillespie, but the entirety of the team, because it's just so shocking and deflating and gut-wrenching. What does a coach say? Like, how do you handle it? Because you got to turn around and play again tomorrow at Penn State, where it feels like Maryland's never won. And I know that this isn't a good Penn State team, but, it's senior day, and all they've got to play for now is to play spoiler. What do you do? What do you say to the whole team after something like that? And particularly, how do you address it with Jacoby, who you don't want to pile on? Like, he knows that was not the shot to take in that moment. But, like, what do you do? Take me into the mind of being a coach and what Kevin Willard has to do in these moments.
Well, I think, and I said it earlier, I think that game's a great experience for them. I hopefully, if they learn from it and, to be a little more calm and cool. You get in the NCAA tournament, you don't have quite the emotion that you had, an energy in the building because you're playing a neutral site, but it's a special moment to be part of the NCAA tournament and to learn from that situation and him at the end of the game, you haven't made a 3. You've been getting to the free throw line and that's kept you in the game, got you back in the game. Let's go to the hoop, make a play. And it wasn't a horrible shot if it was at 3-2-1, but if it's, at 6-5-4, you can get 2 more dribbles. People get the whole length of the court. You can get in the paint and maybe cause the official to make a call and go to the free throw line, and you're a good free throw shooter. So it's a learning tool. I think that's what you got to. Hey, we played. It wasn't our best game. We played with one of the best teams. We had a shot. We didn't do it. Now let's learn from it and continue to improve. And I would tell you, if you played Penn State 3 weeks ago, you would say they're not a good team. The last 10 days, they're back to where they were in December and January. They're really good. And now I think they're, I think they're eliminated from the Big Ten tournament. I saw Mike talk about, or Coach Rhodes talk about it after, that he was so disappointed that they can't play in that thing. So maybe their emotions will be a little different, but they are playing at home, so it'll be interesting. They're going to have to play good basketball because Penn State has been good the last 10 days.
And they haven't, as I said, they almost never play good basketball at Penn State. I also, it kind of reminded me of Maryland's game at Indiana yesterday. And I'm not trying to say Kevin Willard greater than Tom Izzo. I'm not insane, but I feel like part of the story for me last night of what I really took, or Wednesday night, what I took away was down 9 late. Kevin Willard, every time they called a timeout, his team came out and executed immediately afterwards. And it felt like it was an area where coaching, and, Coach, you probably imagine we're used to, seeing this from the Gary Williams era of basketball where, coaching really seemed to make the difference. But it really stood out to me on Wednesday that, a big part of the reason why they had the chance in the final seconds is because they appeared to be really well coached up in those final minutes to do everything right other than when they didn't have a timeout and Jacoby put the shot up.
Yeah, they were organized. They executed. They got it to Rice. They got it to their go-to guys. They got it to the free throw, got to the paint, got to the free throw line. He did a great job. There's no doubt. Give him a chance. I said after, and we talked about it in the studio as a group, that if Kevin wins that game, you've got to consider him for being Big Ten Coach of the Year. I mean, where they were predicted, what they did in the portal, he's done a really good job. There's no doubt about it. And, there's still a lot more to do, and they got a really good team, and hopefully the learning tool from the game and make some progress. And you asked about a coach's mindset. How you handle wins and losses is so important. And how they handle this loss is, you'll see when they play Penn State. You'll see how they finish the season moving into the Big Ten tournament.
Bruce, I asked you about Derek Queen, one player having nothing to do with Maryland. I seem to ask every guest we have on about basketball, college basketball, about Cooper Flagg. He does appear to be really ready. Could you talk a little bit about what you've seen out of him this season?
Yeah, he not just his skill level, his athleticism, but his feel for the game and his maturity, it's special. There's no doubt. He's an elite player. It started last summer when he got to go against the USA team, and how he showed there for a young guy like that to do that. That's pretty amazing. It got everybody's attention, and it's continued all year. They've been very consistent. They've been a well-coached team. John Shire played for my brother in high school, so I know John. I recruited him. I think he's matured as a coach and done a really good job with. He's got good players. There's no doubt. Yeah. But there's other people who have good players too. It's how you handle those good players is so important, and a good true testament of what kind of coaching job you're doing. He's done a good job this year.
Coach, before we let you go, the important question, we were talking about Gene Hackman this morning. When you were at Southern Illinois, did you ever measure a court? Did you ever go measure the basket to prove to your guys that it was still only 10 feet? Did you ever pull out that technique over the years?
Well, we used to have coaches when I was in the old days. We talked about, I tell stories in the studio. You're sitting there 6-7 hours. We had guys that, you go to shoot around, they changed the rims. They'd have different rims from the shoot around to the game, all the gamesmanship.
Oh, just to try to get you, to psych you out, right? Like we were shooting on these rims, we were feeling good.
Lower. They put the baskets lower while you got shooting practice, and it's the right size. Our guys would go out there and say, Coach, the rims are different. No, the rims are, yes, and it was. Really, they were different.
I just want to know.
Different rims, they were different heights, it's just, and, that's our guys in the studio, I guess, are so naive. And I said, you guys have no idea. Somebody asked me, do you worry about practicing in the building? Heck yeah. We used to go and check every camera. We'd turn them off. We'd give the finger to the camera and turn it the other way, because guys were always trying to find advantages. So there's no doubt. I never went and measured, but I know it was a factor, and it is a great movie, and it's a perfect movie for this time of year because this is what it's all about. March Madness, it's here in a few days, and it really started this last week. So,
Coach, I want to know, did you ever have an alcoholic assistant coach?
Coach, where are we seeing you? When are we seeing you? Are you on this weekend?
I'm on Tuesday, Wednesday. Last week is of the studio is next week, and then we'll be in Indianapolis. So we're looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun tournament. And
that will include Maryland, Michigan on Wednesday night. So another really good one coming up.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last week. We were fortunate. It's funny. Last year Northwestern wasn't predicted, and we got all their big games, and they beat Purdue, they beat Illinois. They had all these good games this year. We've been able to have some good ones with Maryland, so that's a positive thing for the BTN.
Coach, always appreciate taking the time for us. Thanks for hopping on this morning.
Thanks,
look forward to seeing you
Have
Wednesday.
A great day.
Thank you, right. Coach.
Coach Bruce Weber with us here on GCR after he was in studio, and as he said, he'll be in studio again this coming Wednesday night. As Maryland takes on Michigan. They do have Penn State before that. That's tomorrow at noon. And as I said yesterday, whatever the significance of the Michigan State game was, it's sort of backed up by it's not the end of the world as long as it doesn't snowball. As long as there isn't a hangover effect from how you lost that game, that you come out and you play flat tomorrow and you lose on the road at Penn State, and that it gets away from you a little bit and how well you have been playing. If it's one game and one fluky thing that happened, losing by 3 points to Michigan State will not be the end of the world come Selection Sunday. That will not reflect poorly on you. But if it starts to go the other way, then it becomes more problematic. So we will see how that plays out tomorrow. We will see what's on Bo Smolka's mind when we come back in. Pressbox Ravens beat writer will join us. Obviously, a lot of information from John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta this week. We'll see how he parsed everything they had to say when we come back in. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farms stores, or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Friday edition with Stan the Fan Charles in studio. Just one show for you this past week, Stan.
Yes, one show, and Luke and I will do another show this coming Monday, and then both of us head down to Sarasota. So there'll be one show this week.
Okay, so this past Monday, you and Luke caught up with Josh Hauser, the baseball coach from Harvard Community College. And you can find that right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab, go to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. All of Stan's shows always brought to you by the Costas Inn, where we are really at this point, we can start saying we're like days from the opening of the new Costas Inn.
Yeah.
Guess
about a month away.
Yeah, about 1 month until the new Costas Inn in Timonium, which I am very excited about. But
bet you are.
Very, very excited.
Bet you
it's
are.
Very good news in my life. Certain thing. A lot of times when somebody tells me about something opening, I'm like, okay, that doesn't
I'll
really.
check it out.
Yeah, it's exactly what my response tends to be. Like, at some point I'll go over and look at that.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually have an actual impact on my life, but this one has an actual impact on my life, legitimately. So I'm looking forward to
You're also going to be doing dishes there, aren't you? That's what Pete told me.
I mean, at some point, I might owe it to him, given how kind he's been to me over the years. I might owe him some dishes. I can send 2 boys over to handle some dishes for him.
Who's that drummer that I hooked
Max Wein, the great Max Weinberg.
Yeah, and he's playing here at the Gordon Center.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In Owings Mills.
Oh,
so
cool.
Jane told me that last night. Said, do you want tickets? And I said, that's not me, but let Nick know.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is like 2 a.m. She texts Nick. I'm already going.
Of course he was. Of course. Do you know Max Weinberg was the band leader for what TV show?
It was one of the late night
It was
shows.
Indeed.
God, I can't remember. Conan?
Conan is correct. Obviously.
Who's hosting the
Oscars on Sunday night. Look at that. How that all ties together. Look at that. All right. This week, the Baltimore Ravens brass out in Indianapolis, and both Eric DeCosta, John Harbaugh held press conferences and reacted, and I parsed what I thought could be parsed from it. I want to know what this man thought could be parsed from what was said out in Indianapolis. Joining us now here on GCR, he is the Ravens beat writer for PressBox. He is our friend Bo Smolka. Bo, it's Glenn and Stan. Good morning, my friend. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Good morning. Thanks.
Bo, it's always difficult whenever we have these like off-season press conferences because most questions aren't going to be, directly answered. I just wonder, I'll start with, I thought they actually, for the large part, handled the responses to the questions about Justin Tucker well. And, given the history of this organization and obviously the disastrous press conferences they held in the aftermath of Ray Rice, it felt like maybe they learned a little bit about how to go about handling these questions and not being dismissive of them despite the fact that you're not going to answer them. That said, do you have you shifted in any way? Do you have any sort of stick your finger in the air, see where the wind blowing gut about what this is going to end up being for the Ravens and for Justin Tucker?
Well, I agree with you in that they were obviously prepared. They were ready for it, and they were kind of ready to Eric DeCosta said, look, we've had 4 questions about this. It dominated the start of his press conference, which we expected it would. And then he said, all right, well, I've answered 4 or 5 questions about this. I've said what I'm going to say on it. In my mind, I don't, they're going to defer to the league. Their message is clearly the league is investigating, and we'll defer till the league's investigation happens, and then we'll go from there. That's all well and good. They can say that, but I find it hard. I don't see a way that he can be back here kicking for this team this year. I just think it's going to be really problematic. First of all, if the league were to come back and say, all right, he's suspended for, say, 10 games, 11 games, 6 games, whatever it is, if it's a significant suspension, then that would, in normal cases, that takes effect with the start of the regular season, which means in theory he could be here kicking in training camp. But you obviously, if he's going to be gone for the first half of the year, you're going to have other kickers in camp doing the work to be ready for the first game of the season. On top of that, if he is here in training camp, he is going to be a significant distraction. And every time a new national media outlet comes to town, John Harbaugh and players are going to be peppered about Justin Tucker. And I just think, given the situation, it seems to me that it would be unlikely that he would be back. Nothing that I heard from Eric DeCosta or John Harbaugh changes my mind about that.
Do you think that he's kicked his last kick in the NFL?
If I had to guess, I would say yes. But again, he's 35. He's
right.
Obviously still got the ability to play. Kickers have kicked into their 40s.
Yep.
And so it's just he had that slump in the middle of the season. He came back and he did very well the last month of the season. The Ravens, a week before this all broke, had said everything they said about we expect Tucker to be our kicker next year. The question is the same as other questions. Well, do other teams want to take on the potential distraction there? Because for any team taking him on, at this point, it would be a potential distraction. And you have to, John Harbaugh likes to always say, you have to weigh the benefits of the distraction versus the performance. And what's that equation? And I think other teams are going to see that as a significant distraction. And I know people are going to say, well, he's innocent until proven guilty. And that's true in that that's a legal standard. But the court of public opinion doesn't always work that way. And fans, and especially I think this is significant, you have teams that have done a lot of work and put a lot of energy into courting their female fan base. And they have to consider how signing Justin Tucker would be affected by would be perceived by that part of your fan base. And I think it's significant.
I agree with everything you just said, Bo. On the flip side, teams do a lot of things when they get desperate, right? Like when things aren't working and they're trying to win. And I never know. I never know how that might play out. Let's go to another. Ronnie Stanley. I would tell you, Bo, that going into this week, just talking to folks that I had spoken to around the league, I was starting to lean towards this isn't going to work out, and that the amount of money is going to be so outrageous that the Ravens are going to say we can't do that for someone with his injury history. I realize we're in subterfuge season and they could say whatever, but the way as far as Eric DeCosta went in sort of setting a new bar, like setting it so that it would be now kind of be viewed as failure if they didn't get the deal done, that does come off as meaningful to me. Like, I don't think you say it the way that he did if you don't have an amount of belief that you are planning on bringing Ronnie Stanley back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought it was a little more optimistic than I would have thought. I'll say, some of these off-season top free agent lists had Ronnie Stanley listed in the top 3 or 4 or 5 players. And those are not the guys the Ravens usually get. And I know they had Lamar Jackson there the one year, and that was a extenuating circumstance and all that. But normally, normally the Ravens are not claiming those guys that are listed top 3 or 4 or 5 free agents, because other teams with a lot more cap money are making a huge deal for that player, and the Ravens are letting them go. You're right that I thought Eric DeCosta was quite optimistic. I don't know if that was kind of the dance they do with agents to kind of play the game and be in a good spot with the agent and all that. There's obviously going to be a lot of discussions, but I agree with you. I was more pessimistic that he would be back. It just struck me as that he's, Ronnie Stanley took a pay cut to stay here last year. Would he be, would that affect how loyal he might feel to this team? Obviously the Ravens got a really good year from him last year, and it's to Ronnie Stanley's credit. He came in, and I don't even think he missed a practice in training camp. He was never taking vet days. He played every game for the first time in his career. So it was a great season, and for him, and then now with the void year, he becomes a free agent. The timing works out well for him. Obviously, I think they'd love to have him back. I mean, this is the offensive line. We saw how important a good offensive line is, and if you lose him, that suddenly creates a major problem with your offensive line. So I think they'd like to keep him. If I had to bet, I still think he's signed away. But I agree with you that the needle shifted toward the Ravens a little bit. And you're right that Eric DeCosta sometimes plays the game with the semantics this time of year. He's an expert at it. But it did strike me as maybe a little more positive than he had to let on.
He is Bo Smolka, Press Box Ravens beat writer, and he's with us here on GCR. Bo, the other topic that I feel like is the dominant one this offseason is the tight end conversation, and that one's one where
nobody's a bigger fan than Mark Andrews.
Loves Mark Andrews, but no, it certainly didn't say, there's no way that Mark Andrews isn't on this team next year. What did you make, again, trying to parse through everything that was said, what did you make of what was said about the tight end position?
Yeah, what I made of that when he said it, I thought exactly when he said it, I thought exactly that. I said, here's a chance for Eric DeCosta to say definitively Mark Andrews is going to be on the team, and he didn't. What I took it was he's letting teams know that Mark Andrews is available via trade. I think he does. I don't doubt what he said. I think he does. I think he's a huge Mark Andrews fan. He was also a huge Todd Heap fan, and the Ravens let him go. But I do think that he was making clear that Andrews is available via trade. He's got a $4 million roster bonus due the 5th day of the league year, so that's a significant deadline that anything would probably happen by then. The thing is, I don't think he would be released. I don't see any. I know they would save some cap money if they release him. They'd save $11 million. They have that cap space. There's more cap space now than they thought there was a week ago because of the new cap number came out, and it's a pretty good bump, 23 million or something. So that his salary isn't as dramatic relative to the cap as it was a month ago. But I do also think if you're going to try to trade him, you have to find, I wrote about this for Press Box this morning. You have to find a trade partner.
Right.
And the question is, who would be willing to take on an age 30 Mark Andrews and that contract? Or do you look in the draft and say, well, what else is out there that we might be able to get at a rookie contract at a much cheaper price? And if you look in the past history, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, George Kittle, none of those guys were first-round draft picks. And so if you're a GM and you believe this is a deep tight end group, and I know there's a couple that are considered first-round picks, but if there's another handful of them that you think could really be impact players in the second, third, fourth rounds, would you go that route and take that rookie contract rather than pay for the contract of Mark Andrews entering his age 30 year? And so DeCosta would have to find a trade partner. And if he doesn't, then I think Andrews is back at the deal that he has. I don't see them extending Mark Andrews because I think they're going to want to extend Isaiah Likely, and I just don't think they're going to be able to extend both. But I think DeCosta's comments were kind of hey, guys, we're willing to listen to him. We really like him, but we're willing to listen to offers for him.
Well, I think it might become simply a math equation for them, right? Where if they look and say, hey, if we let him walk after next year and we're in line for a fifth-round compensatory pick, then what would the trade value have to be to make up for losing 1 year of Mark Andrews? Like, would you have to get a third-round pick for it to be worth it? Would they say, hey, if all we can get is a fourth-round pick for Mark Andrews, and we think we're getting a fifth-round compensatory pick anyway, then that math works. That math works out that like that's worth a year of Mark Andrews' value.
100%, I agree, and that's it. I think that's exactly it. If you were to just play out the contract. And the thing is, it would take that $16.9 million cap hit, so that would be an expensive play out of the contract. But if they had him for the year and then he left as a free agent next year, you're right. That in theory, they would probably be looking at probably a fifth-round compensatory for 2027. And yeah, if you're only going to get a fourth for him now,
right?
Then he is what he is to your offense. And let's face it, he's coming back extremely motivated based on how the last game went. Yeah. And I know that people will still say that nothing with him is going to matter until he proves in the playoffs, all that. But he's obviously been a huge part of what you do. So I don't think you are just going to give him away for a marginal draft improvement and lose that year. So I think the idea is they're going to have to look for trade value. Whether it becomes a player and then an extra round, there's a lot of stuff he'll listen to. But if it doesn't happen and he doesn't find a trade that is worked for them, then falling back and keeping Andrews for one more year is certainly not the worst solution.
Does the Stanley situation, both of you, the optimism you have that now that they might do something more optimistic with the other tight ends they have, could the Stanley signing push Andrews, really push them into wanting to trade him? Or you think they can afford both him playing out his contract this year and signing Stanley?
I mean, there's other things they'll do. They could try to find some money. Honestly, they could try to find some money with Lamar Jackson. Correct. Go to Lamar Jackson and say, let's work on your contract and see if we can't shift some money down the road. That would be the one that could create the most room.
Right.
Marcus Williams will be gone. They could try to rework Marlon Humphrey. We don't know what will happen with Justin Tucker, honestly, but depending if they were to release him after a June 1st cut, there's ways they can move money around and make things work. And obviously with the salary cap going up, that also gives them more flexibility. But as I said to someone yesterday, every other team is in the same boat, and they all have more money now too.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Ravens just found this money. Every team in the league found this money.
Yep.
So that's not necessarily a benefit to them, but it does give them more money to work with. So I'm still not optimistic on Stanley, but I'm more optimistic. And so But I don't. I think could they? The question is, if they extend Stanley, could they keep Andrews? I think they could.
All right, Bo. Anything else that was said out there this week that like caught your attention, or you just wanted to file away?
I just thought it was interesting to hear DeCosta talk about building a team through the middle, which is something you always talk about. You always hear baseball people talk about that. You got to be strong up the middle. You got to be strong up the middle. And DeCosta talk about it with football. I know he's big. He's a big baseball guy too. He loves to use baseball analogies. But this idea that you build a team through the middle, and he talks about having a really good interior defensive line, then having Roquan Smith, having strong safeties in the back, that was interesting, and I think it's how they will operate. Obviously, one of the things they're going to have to do is figure out where Kyle Hamilton will play and how. And I think figuring out who will play alongside him, whether it'll be Washington or whether they'll look to take a safety early in the draft, is interesting. But listening to him say you build a team through the middle was notable.
At B Smolka is, of course, how you follow him, and he does have a piece up today about Mark Andrews at PressBoxOnline.com. Encourage you to check that out. Bo, appreciate you. I have no doubt something will be happening here in the next couple of weeks where we'll need to be in touch with you, and we will do that then. Thank you for doing this morning,
Thanks,
man.
Bo.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bo Smolka with us here on GCR. And again, I'm not trying to like suggest that suddenly I think there's a 90% chance that Ronnie Stanley is back, but I went from one side of 50-50 to the other is the way that I would say it. I was sub 50-50 going into this week.
Now you're like 60-40.
Yeah, something in that neighborhood. Probably.
30.
Maybe I don't know. I think when Griffin and I were talking, the way that he said it, I might even be up to 70-30. Now maybe that was just me getting too caught up in the words that day, but what I would say is these guys don't like to set themselves up for failure.
Right.
Eric DeCosta's not in the bit. If you go
into
the offseason,
business of
if Ronnie Stanley walks, Ronnie Stanley walks.
Right.
And you can just say, hey, look, we would have loved to have brought back Ronnie Stanley, but the market didn't work out. Setting yourself up to be measured by your own words.
Mm-hmm.
To say, I'm optimistic we're going to get this done, now allows for somebody to say, hey, what happened there?
Yeah.
How did you you said that.
Yeah.
You didn't have to. Nobody forced you to.
Right.
You said that. Now, it didn't happen? Well, did you fail? Like, is this on you? They don't
set
themselves up for failure. Now, that could be him just getting caught up in a conversation.
Unlike Griffin. Griffin likes to set himself up for failure.
I'm trying to think if Griffin – sometimes Griffin will get the cart before – Griffin actually goes the other way. Griffin gets terrified to tell me anything about what's going on with guest booking. He doesn't want to tell me ever.
Terrified?
Like, terrified. I have to remind him that he needs
sound
to.
Like to me, he's like Superman.
Because, like, if it's not going well, he doesn't. But he almost. It becomes like a, hey, are we doing anything this week? Like, are we? What's going on? And I get where he's coming from. He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to set himself up for failure.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. This might not come through.
So you're saying he's very similar to Eric DeCosta in his thinking.
Boy,
that's high praise. That's high.
Very cerebral.
Yeah, very cerebral.
Very
exactly.
Probably
right.
run a football team. I think so. Yeah.
What kind of football team?
One with a really good roster.
A Pop Warner football team. Yeah,
probably lose in the second or third round of the playoffs every year.
Marry somebody like a Lacey.
I have not seen. I don't know. This is going to have to be a Shaquille O'Neal situation. I'm not familiar with his game. Like, I don't. Griffin's very mysterious in that part of his life. Yeah. Very mysterious in his private life. Like, there's no, I'm talking to this person.
I saw a glimpse of it last night.
You said he was talking to a young man.
Yeah.
It was his buddy. That was PFT Sean. That was who that
exactly.
was.
Pro Football Talk Sean.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, that was Pro Football.
Yeah, but you don't know. You don't understand. There's two PFT. It's a whole thing.
They're not
a weird group of guys.
No, they're not PFT. It's PFF.
PFF. Sorry, that's I said PFT. You're right. PFF. Sean.
They'd be very offended.
I'm sorry, Sean. His name's not even Sean. I know. I actually do remember. Well, I think I remember his name. It starts with a T, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I know.
Big T.
But yeah, Big T. That's what they call him.
That's what we call him.
But yeah.
And do you think Josh is listening right now
today?
Yeah.
I don't know, Josh. It's not that he's not into basketball,
right?
But not nearly as much as he is Ravens and Orioles.
Yeah, but he's into his Uncle Stan.
He loves his Uncle Stan. Oh, do you think he's listening today? Did you hear from him?
No, but we're partnering up on a fantasy baseball.
Oh, you found an investor.
You
found an investor for your fantasy baseball.
It's going to be Rocco, Josh, and Uncle
Stan.
So
wait, is Rocco running the team?
Rocco's going to play a part in it.
He's going to have
a say-so.
Okay, all right.
He's got a seat at the table.
I would tell you right now that I would prefer my 10-year-old son to be if somebody said you've got to have a fantasy baseball team this year.
Yeah,
I absolutely would say you let the boy be involved.
Okay.
He is on top of it.
Now you two have to be in a fantasy
working
league.
on. This weekend is we're trying.
Oh, you're
to
having
come
a study
up with
session
a name.
this weekend. Oh,
we're
a name.
Name of the team.
Got it. This is.
I think a name is
far more important
than
than the strategy.
Else.
I do agree with that. Right? Like it's not going to work. By the way,
once you make it, you can't.
Did
change
you
it.
see what's the dumb show? The girl basket, the Kate Hudson. What is that show?
Running Point.
Running Point. Have you seen the promos for this show?
Is this a movie or
this
a
is
show?
a Netflix. Well, I don't know. Is it a show?
It's a
I think
show,
it's a show.
series,
It's a Netflix show with Kate Hudson playing a female. But is it a coach or an executive?
She's the president.
She's
I think.
the president.
She's like, her dad, I guess, either dies or something,
Okay.
or he is dying. And then he's like, "You're the president
fictitious
now."
basketball team, and it
most
looks
famous franchise in the world.
awful.
The LA
I
Waves.
mean, awful. But we've gotten a kick out of it on this show because you think you can find
What's
the clip?
it called?
The
Running Point. Yeah, the
Running Point.
Running Point is what it running point.
The Chet. Yeah.
Running
point.
Okay.
Like running
I'm
a
saying
point
it the wrong
guard,
way.
but
Yes,
she's
running
running points
point.
of the franchise.
Point person.
Apparently, the show almost didn't end up being able to air because there was a lawsuit involved by Pepperdine University.
Pepperdine because
of
the
Waves. Because this fictitious team is called the LA Waves. So Griffin and I have had some fun with this show because I don't know what we were watching one day, but there was a trailer for this god-awful show. And you could see, I say it's god-awful. Maybe we'll find out that somehow the trailer is dramatically worse than the show is. The trailer is horrendous. But there is one particular line that is so laughable that, like, it floors you almost to a point where you say, maybe I'll watch the show. Like, that's so bad that perhaps I'll watch the show because it might entertain me in a different way.
Okay.
And the line happens to be delivered by Tom Hanks' son.
Colin?
Not the actor.
Oh.
Not the accomplished, talented actor, star of one season of Juno.
Right.
Star of Orange County, which I stand by as one of the most criminally underappreciated comedies of the 21st century.
Right.
No, by the other son, would-be rapper and the man that gave us White Boy Summer, Chet Hanks.
Chet Hanks.
Chet Hanks, who you wouldn't know, Stan, is a running internet joke. Like, Chet Hanks' existence is just a colossal internet joke. Like, if you're looking for a punchline, if you're just looking to finish for something to be a punchline,
right,
and you don't know how to finish a sentence,
Chet Hanks.
You pivot towards Chet Hanks. Like
Be a good name for a fantasy baseball team.
He plays one of the basketball players.
Oh God!
In this show, yeah, 100%, and delivers. Do you have it?
Yeah, I think I have it because no one isolated it, but I
you have
put
from
up
the
trailer.
From the trailer. Okay,
Does
so
this
it
have
might
more sound than the Hoosiers?
Does,
yeah. This is God. Huh? From Netflix, I guess we should say.
Respectfully, I seen your titties on the internet, so I can't really take you serious.
Run it.
There you go. There you go. So bad, it might be good. So bad that I might have to spend time with Running Point because
that's up there with like Brando.
Yeah,
you know,
correct.
on the
Chet,
waterfront.
Brando
I
and
could have been something.
Gene Hackman,
I could have been a contender.
Right?
You know,
Chet Hanks delivering that line.
Respectfully.
He did say respectfully, and once you say respectfully, you can
say whatever you want.
Basically say, with all due respect, that's the way that it works. As soon as you say that, you can say whatever you want to say after that. Yes, apparently there was a lawsuit from Pepperdine.
Good for Pepperdine.
To try to prevent that. They were looking for a temporary restraining order on the show. It said, our trademark is more than just a symbol. It represents the legacy, values, and excellence that Pepperdine has upheld for decades. We do not believe Netflix and Warner Brothers can be permitted to take the Waves trademarks and colors that we have used for almost 90 years to identify Pepperdine to instead identify the team that is subject of their series. Now, I'm going to go conspiracy theorist on you. is it possible that the trailer is so bad for this show and Netflix is so worried that they then got in cahoots with Pepperdine to try to get a little viral marketing for this show by having Pepperdine
act like you're pissed off.
Yeah, could you do us a favor here? Like maybe they know somebody used to work at Netflix, now works for Pepperdine, something along those lines. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that they wanted to quash the whole show.
Well, that's what the lawsuit alleges. They wanted that. But I'm thinking that it might be a little bit the other way.
So they can draw attention here and be like, Pepperdine thinks they can take down Netflix.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, now we have to watch Running Point. Great Chet Hanks, man. Boy, he's good for him.
Would that be a good name for a fantasy baseball team?
What, Chet Hanks? I don't think. It sounds
probably
like
not.
Sounds like a loser to me, Stan. Sounds like a loser. Hey, we are into the postseason in high school hoops. Find everything you need to know, brackets, scores, schedules, updates, all at countysports.zone, which is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. When we come back in this week in the rest of baseball, it's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry. Protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
You're gonna love February at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Sweeten your Valentine's Day with a chocolate bar February 13th and 14th. Pamper yourself and your partner with Valentine's Day spa discounts February 10th through 21st. Celebrate the Year of the Snake and win a Lunar New Year luxury brand collection February 28th. Plus more ways to play, dine, and win all month. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Friday edition of the program. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us today. And if it's a Friday, that means we need to figure out what's happening elsewhere in the world of baseball.
Man, we got to organize our thing a little bit better.
This week
in the rest of
baseball.
You don't get this type of performance just anywhere.
Correct.
It just doesn't work that way.
This was a great intro.
This week in the rest of baseball is brought to you by the Print Issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. That's David Rubenstein on the cover as Stan and I sat down for a lengthy Q&A with the owner of the Baltimore Orioles. Go pick that up today. Also, lots of college lacrosse content in there. You can learn about Tyler O'Neill. Great stuff inside this print issue of Press Box.
Tyler O'Neill hit a home run yesterday.
He did, a ball that I still don't think has landed. I would assume, it's funny because we say the rest of baseball, but we haven't talked about the thing that was the big news yesterday. So do you want to start with that?
I guess so. So I believe it was two things, right? Because Gunnar.
Well, I think that one was the.
Yeah, Gunnar got pulled after the first inning yesterday. They are saying they're playing that one down, saying it's that they're just they're very precautionary. But he walked off with trainers, at least according to reports.
The word was he made a leaping catch.
Gunnar did,
and that was, and then Jake Rill, I guess, because you're not allowed to watch the games. He found,
God forbid.
Somebody had video of this.
Oh, they did?
It's a sprawling catch. I think leaping might be.
You don't have it, or
it's on Jake's. It's on Jake's Twitter account. If you go down, somebody's got a standalone camera behind home plate. It's not a broadcast. It's just a video of the sprawling catch that he made.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. You don't see anything that makes it his response just appears to be fine.
During the game, this is on Jake Rills?
Yeah, it wasn't during the game. It was an hour ago he posted.
Oh, an hour ago.
Yeah, it's like the fourth tweet down on Jake Rill's Twitter. Jake Rill, of course, covers the Orioles for MLB.com. Here's the leaping play. But yes, Gunnar, Brandon Hyde said it was precautionary. He felt lower right side discomfort after he landed on the ground following this play. No MRI needed. So that would suggest that there's no actual reason. Here you go.
All right. The audio, but yeah, here it is.
This is the sprawling catch.
Grayson on the mound.
Somebody might have liked to watch this game. Nothing out of sorts about it. So we kind of felt a little discomfort, and everybody was panicked about the idea of Gunnar Henderson being pulled, and understandably so, panicked about Gunnar Henderson being pulled from the game, but they didn't even bother to get an MRI. That smells like it. Sometimes it really is just precautionary, and it really is just a spring training game, and so we don't need to put you back out there for another inning. You're good, and that appears to be what it is with Gunnar Henderson. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor that the next couple of days unless there's something new that comes from it. Doesn't look like there's anything.
And then they also said Westberg dealing with back discomfort as well, so less details on that one, I think, than on Gunnar. So I guess that means potentially a little bit more serious, but they still only said, a couple days, a few days?
I mean, until it's February 28th.
Yeah.
If it's a bummer if you're going down to Florida and you wanted to see Jordan Westberg, I mean, I guess that's a bummer, but it's February 28th. Certainly none of these things. Until there's reason to believe they are serious, no reason to be all that worked up about it.
So I guess those are the big Orioles things, I guess, from the last day or two that we haven't touched on yet. Felix Bautista threw a bullpen yesterday as well, and he looked very good, according to everyone that was in attendance to witness that, through 25 pitches. But yeah, I guess the other thing, so there was one sort of tiny breaking news piece. David Hess announced that he is cancer-free last night.
Oh, I love that. Love that. That is wonderful news.
Yeah, former Oriole David Hess, apparently cancer-free, so good to hear that from him, from his camp, straight from his Twitter account last night.
Now, did anybody hear anything? Luke told me that Sammy Basayo's home run yesterday went over the scoreboard.
Oh,
ooh.
I didn't see
Sarasota at
Ed
Smith
Basayo's.
Stadium.
Well, now I'd like to know. Oh, Griffin's got it. Very good.
Did it?
I'm watching it too. Oh my. Oh my. Yeah, that is over the scoreboard. That is a bomb. Now I don't know who he was. I don't know who the pitcher was. It was later in the game. But
16 on the Blue Jays.
Well, at least it's not a number in the 70s, so
number 16.
There's a chance that's a real pitcher. But yeah, that is. That is an absolute rocket.
Nice.
No doubt about it.
Guess what number he's wearing, Stan? Or have you seen the video, I'm sure, of Basayo?
15.
No.
What?
72. 72.
No.
Old
Gotta
72.
Gotta get him a real number.
Jimenez number. Right?
Gotta get him a real number. Gotta get him a real one. That's not gonna work. Not gonna work whatsoever. What else do you have for this week and the rest of baseball?
Right, so the Yankees are still giving us some news. They also announced this over the past weekend, or I guess on Monday or Sunday, they announced that they're going to no longer play New York after losses.
Oh, that's right.
And
yeah.
now
apparently they started doing it in spring training, and like some of the beat writers just happened to notice it, and that's how it became a story.
Did they do it? But they did do it at game, at least for the last season or two.
No. I'm saying they started playing games like last Friday.
Right.
And
they lost.
And then they didn't play New York. Yeah, that's what they played. They played That's Life by Frank Sinatra, and the beat writers were like, "What?"
Start spreading.
And so
it's always great though, being a road fan at Yankee Stadium, and they start playing New York.
And you sing along with it. Yeah,
yes.
right. One, who actually cares? It would be fascinating to me if people in New York care about this. Like, if you were a Yankees fan, do you care what song they play after you lose a baseball game? Like, you lost. What are you looking for?
That is a major nothing.
Like, I don't know what the Orioles do when they lose a game. I genuinely don't know. I've never paid attention. Like, we all know that, like, for a while. Do they always play Orioles Magic after wins? I don't even know that.
Do they only play it after walk-offs? Or
I don't know the answer to this question. I've genuinely never paid attention to this subject to have any idea what the answer to the question is. But I guess they knew in New York. They were quite aware.
Yeah.
But they're not committing to playing That's Life either.
Yeah,
they're saying
gonna rotate.
They're going to mix up playing different songs after
My
losses.
Way, maybe. Or
just all Frank songs, I guess.
All different Sinatra songs.
I guess that's the way it's going to go. I have no idea.
Trying to think.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall of that meeting.
Well, yeah, somebody had to make that. Somebody had to make that decision. That is the crazy part, Stan. Is like, there was a board meeting. Like, they had 6 people were in a room when someone presented the guys.
I don't like that we're playing.
I just want to talk about this.
Yeah. New York.
And everyone's like, oh God, like, where's this gonna go? Are we getting doged? Are we getting like? How's this working?
Is this George Costanza's idea?
And then they're like,
smelling Elon Musk.
You think this was one of his? I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is his department, but. God,
well, it's government efficiency, so yeah.
It's a great point. Yeah, this is government efficiency.
And then let's see, we had a college pitcher throw a perfect game. Not only a perfect game, but a Maddox as well for Portland.
Could maybe use that guy showing up for Maryland.
Right, yeah. Ryan Rembiz. Yeah, Maryland's pitching staff not
brutal.
They lost to Delaware.
Brutal. They lost to Delaware on Tuesday. I think they've given up double-digit runs in like every game for. It ain't great.
Yeah, it has not been up. Ryan Rembiz, though, from Portland, the Portland Pilots, threw a perfect game against Seattle U on Tuesday. 12 strikeouts, 86 pitches, and facing the minimum in an 8-0 win for Portland. So maybe Rembiz, potentially a guy, I guess, keep an eye on, or maybe he was just facing Seattle. Who knows? But it was pretty wild, though, just 86 pitches for a perfect game at the college level. Have you heard of this guy?
It's for Maryland baseball, 44 runs they've given up over the last 4 games. Not ideal. They did win one because they scored
40 runs.
35 runs in the game that they won. 35.
I mean,
in
they
the Saturday
scored,
game at Western
they scored
Carolina.
10 against Delaware and lost.
Yeah, not great. But that is also part of what you love about college baseball is that like there's no feel to the game. You think you've got the story for a minute. You're like, okay, this team is clear, and then it's going to change 17 times before the game is over. You better buckle up, baby. You got a long ride ahead of you.
Jeffrey Yan, have you heard of this guy yet? He is currently pitching for the Rockies.
I am not familiar.
Spent last season, or at least the last season or two, in the Mexican League. Jefry, Jeffrey Yan, Y-A-N, if you want to look him up real quick.
It's the fewest amount of letters you could have in a Jeffrey.
So he celebrates every punch-out, every time he gets a strikeout, like he just won the World Series. And it's kind of awesome. And so he did it in the Mexican Winter League all this past season. So he got an ABS strikeout, and he did the same. Like he does this little hop off the mound and like starts fist pumping the air. It's
okay. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's pretty electric.
He looks like Michael Jackson. It's amazing. I can't be mad at this guy. Tell me he's going to make the big leagues. Tell me, Stan.
He's pitching in Colorado, so who knows how long he'll last.
Yeah, right. This is the celebration for a strikeout from Jeffrey Yan. I can't even be mad at it. It's so absurd. I love it. It's so ridiculous. It's incredible.
Did that win the world championship?
No, that was a spring training a random strikeout in a spring training baseball game against the White Sox. I love that.
Well, against the White Sox?
Yeah, right?
I mean, when you strike out a guy
out
from a 41-120 team.
100%.
Yeah,
oh, my God. I love this guy.
What's his name? Who's he with?
Jeffrey
the
Yan.
Rockies?
He's with the Rockies. You got to
Just a little.
I know
swipe of
you're
the
mad
dirt.
because you weren't allowed to do This Week in the Rest of Baseball this week, but he's got good stuff. He's got good content.
He came. I'll tell you what. The incentive, knowing that I was possibly.
You think he stepped his game up?
He stepped his game.
You wouldn't have found Jeffrey Yan.
No.
You wouldn't have brought Jeffrey Yan to our attention.
So because the second strikeout in that little clip, the batter challenges it, and they show the board, and it's still a strike, and he does the jump again, and it's
that's tremendous.
So yeah, we're all Jeffrey Yan fans here back in Baltimore,
call him
I guess.
Jumping Jeffrey.
Jumping Jeffrey, 100%.
Hopefully that's the way you pronounce it as well. I'm
God.
not positive. Maybe it's a Heffrey.
I'm watching. Yeah, right. I'm watching it again. This is my. He got like the minimal part of the strike zone in order for it to be called a strike.
Yeah.
And then they cut back to him, and sure enough, yep.
And then Stan, I know Glenn saw, but on Wednesday, I think the Blue Jays punished Chris Bassett, Stan, for he was the bat boy for the entirety of their spring training game. He had to get baseballs for the umps in between every inning.
That was the punishment?
He lost his fantasy football league, so Chris Bassett had to operate.
You mean finish like in last place?
Yeah, last place, and he had to wear a custom jersey that said Bassett on the back, and his 4-10 fantasy record that was on the jersey, and he was bat boy for a spring training game.
Well, at least they have their priorities straight.
I enjoyed. No, this is the time.
Should they have punished? Should they have made it a regular season game? Or
No, you absolutely should not have made it a regular.
He's a starting
season
pitcher.
game.
Obviously, if
I would have made
George
him
Springer, you're not making George Springer do it during a regular season.
I would have
game,
made him imitate Jumpin' Johnny.
Oh, Jeffrey Yan. Would you show some respect?
Jeffrey Yan.
This man's going to save baseball.
I already ordered his Mexican League jersey.
This guy is my favorite player of all time. I love this guy so much.
Jumpin' Johnnies.
Jumpin' Johnnies. It's all the minor league teams. What did the Shorebirds announced it? So they're all announcing their like alternative names this week. Like all the various teams are announcing their if we're gonna play a game as the whatever. And I swear I saw it for the Shorebirds, but I don't remember what it was. They are the Wild Ponies.
Yeah.
In honor of Assateague Island.
May 17th.
Wow.
Everyone mark your calendar.
They will be the Delmarva Wild Ponies.
I was out there with the
one.
Wild Ponies in Assateague.
You know what's funny? I've never been.
To Assateague?
My wife, my kids have been. I've never been to Assateague in my life.
I was there back in about 1970.
Really? I was very little. I do have like vague memories, but yeah, like just like horses like running around. I was like, this is wild. I haven't been back since I was
You
very
added
little.
something to my day. Are you guys familiar with the story of Brady Feigl?
No.
Brady Feigl?
Yes, Brady Feigl. He is a pitcher. He's actually from this area. And he just signed a minor league deal with the Twins this week. Brady Feigl made his it's a crazy story. Brady Feigl, he's from Severn. He went to Old Mill. He played at Mount St. Mary's, and he toiled in the minors for forever. From 2012 till finally last year, he made his major league debut with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And this week he signs a minor league deal with the Twins. Brady Feigl has a doppelganger. Brady Feigel's doppelganger is named Brady Feigl. Brady Feigl,
right?
Feigl, not a very common name.
No, not at all.
There are two Brady Feigls. They are both pitchers, and they look exactly like each other.
Wow.
I mean, absolutely could be twins. Now, the other Brady Feigl never made it.
One of them is a twin.
One of them now is a twin, which is part of like what gives you a kick.
You see what I did there?
Now,
Griffin?
admittedly, I feel terrible. I never knew the story. I wish I would have known this story because when he made his major league debut last year,
Why can't
we
we get them on the show?
I would love. Well, I don't know how much we need to have both of them, but Stan, look at these two people.
What do you mean? That's the same guy?
They're both Brady Feigl.
That is unbelievable.
They're both pitchers. They look exactly the same.
Has anybody talked to their mother?
They've done interviews together. Yeah. They've done media on this.
So they're aware of this.
I'm late to the game on the Brady Feigl deal. I just saw that a guy from Old Mill signed a deal with the Twins this week, and I was like, that's neat.
What
like
do you think of that
good
name
for him.
a team?
What, the Brady Feigls?
The Brady Feigls.
You might be onto something. The dueling Brady Feigls, maybe. You might be onto something. Wild, man. Absolutely wild story. They have the two Brady Feigls who are both pitchers, one from our area, and now pitching in the Twins organization.
Our next guest, by the way, is one of my favorite all-time NBA players.
I did not know that. How about that? Well, this is very cool. Of course, it is CIAA Tournament week this week here in Baltimore, and it's an event that our city has been proud to host and is hoping to we know it's here through next year. We'd like to make sure that continues after that. Championship Saturday is tomorrow. If you haven't been down to CFG Bank Arena yet, there is still time to get down there. We encourage you to do so. And this man knows all about the magic of CIAA basketball and the CIAA tournament. He is an absolute legend. Basketball Hall of Famer Bobby Dandridge is with us this morning here on GCR. Bobby, it's Glenn and Stan here in Baltimore. It is an absolute honor. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
It is my pleasure. Y'all sound like y'all gonna have some fun or been having fun this morning, so it's honor to let me join in on this fun.
It's an honor to have you join in on this fun, Bobby. And you, of course, know as well as anyone does this week, this event, what makes it so special, why you have stayed associated with it for as long as you have. For people that still haven't experienced it, what do you think they should know about the CIAA tournament?
It's a lot of family and fun, tradition, and history that has made this tournament what it is. And the tournament over the years have probably produced at least 5 or 6 Naismith Hall of Famers. So this tournament goes back and has always been a quality product.
Bobby, being in that arena, I know it looks a lot different than the days you played in it, but does it bring back a few memories going up against like the likes of Gus Johnson and Earl the Pearl? And
yeah, it does. And coincidentally, I was riding yesterday, and I looked across the street, and I saw what used to be the old Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
That had one of the first original rooftop views of a city, and I'm saying I'm back in Baltimore.
It's a special place, and obviously special basketball memories. Bobby, like what? I think there are people that don't understand how electric Baltimore is as a basketball town, right? Like that, because we're a city that has been without an NBA team for a long time. What do you tell people about what Baltimore was still? We think about the legends. Carmelo Anthony is going to go into join you in the Hall of Fame this year, we assume. But what would you tell people about Baltimore as a basketball town?
I mean, basketball has always been a trademark of Baltimore. I mean, we go back to this guy Skip Wise years ago, and we look at the great Dunbar High School team. Mm-hmm. You look at Muggsy Bogues. I mean, and I can go as far back. They talk about the Rucker League, but they had this Baltimore versus Washington, D.C. Classic in the summertime. And before anything else has transpired in Baltimore, it was always the Baltimore playground legends. And then when the Bullets came to town, the Bullets were always in the playoffs with Wes Unseld, Kevin Lockridge, Jack Marin. We talk about Earl the Pearl. We talk about Gus Johnson. Baltimore has always been a basketball town, and it was a basketball town before even when they had the Colts here.
Yep.
the Bullets rivaled the Colts for the fan base, and what can you say? Anytime you got Earl the Pearl running your team, so Baltimore has always been a basketball town, and good basketball.
Yeah. Bobby, I got to ask you a question. You're 77, I'm 73, so we're kind of in the same generation. Far be it from me to say that the NBA screwed it up because they make gazillion dollars now, but hasn't something been lost in the game by the three-point shot taking away the beauty of what you guys kind of created when you had to create shots?
Of course, because I was talking to a guy recently. I said, I can't imagine fighting through two defenders and getting into the paint and then passing the ball out to somebody in the deep in the deep court. I done did all this work to get inside the paint, and you think I'm going to throw it out to somebody. But I think, everything now is so commercialized. They try to incorporate the international players in the game. But I think during the season, all the three-point shooting goes on. But I think ultimately when you get into the playoffs and as you get towards the finals, I think they go back as close as they can to that old school basketball, because now you got to get the bumping and grinding and the big men. Somebody got to go inside. And so I think on the commercial side of the game, the three-pointers and the dunking and all that goes on during the regular season, but I can see during the playoff, it goes back to that bumping and grinding and being physical. And if you don't have that inside play, when you're trying to win the finals, you don't win. So I think to some aspect, and even today's game, I don't watch it as much as I used to. That's because I go to bed earlier now. I go to bed earlier, but occasionally I'll watch a game depending on which superstar is playing. But the game has changed, and I think just economics has to do more with it. And then you got all these European players coming in, 7-footers shooting threes and stuff. But I think the kid that has grown up in the playground system, if there's such a thing, or grown up in AAU here in this country, there's still a place for that person in this league.
Bobby Dandridge with us here on GCR. Championship Saturday tomorrow at the CIAA Tournament at CFG Bank Arena. Bobby, I could, to follow up on that, as you know, everybody's trying to fix the All-Star game, right? Like everybody, how do we make it? I just think that what you alluded to is kind of where we are. These guys, there's too much money. You just can't get them to care, and I don't know that you can fix it. I just don't think you're going to be able to go back to a day where, guys like you are going to be putting heart and effort into an All-Star game. Do you think that it can be fixed, or it's just kind of what it is?
It is what it is, because I remember a coach told me one time you can't unboil an egg. So you've allowed this to go on, and now, it's at a point where it's not as physical. They've now divided it up into different groups of all-stars. They've made it almost a tournament now. Mm-hmm. And I think the last all-star game that I watched was when Anthony Davis was the MVP down in New Orleans. And I think he broke Wilt Chamberlain's all-star record I think he had 50 points, and Wilk might have had. I think Anthony had 54 points. Wilk might have had 50, but Wilk scored them points against probably Walt Bellamy, Wes Unseld, and Willis Reed, and they weren't given to him. And when I saw Anthony Davis score his 54, I guess in the last quarter, nobody guarded him. They just let him score. So that was my last All-Star game. And realistically, the All-Star games are more for the fans and corporate sponsors to come out and be entertained, and the competition part of it just is secondary now.
Bobby, you won 2 NBA championships, and I can't think of 2 more different centers than you played with on those 2 teams in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was then, I think, Lou Alcindor, and Wes Unseld. Could you talk about the 2 of them for a minute?
2 entirely different, talented, top 50 players.
Yep.
And that demonstrated how versatile the league was during that era. Kareem, just a dominating center, offensively, defensively, just a multi-skilled guy. Wes Unseld was just a tough guy who left it all on the court. And I was once, we were talking about Wes Unseld, and I made a statement where I said, if it's game 7 and your starting center has to play with an injury, I said the only center I would want to play with during that time was Wes Unseld.
That is some incredible praise. I got to ask you one thing about Wes that you don't hear a lot of people Glenn's age talk about. His ability, the outlet pass from a rebound down to the other end of the floor on a chest pass. Were you ever the receiver of one of those?
All the time. All the time. And that was my excitement about coming to Washington to play because, in Milwaukee, I was rebounding, playing defense and everything to get some type of recognition when you're playing with the big O and Kareem. But when I came to Washington, I knew that Wes Unseld had the rebounds. And foremost, I think the thing that helped Wes, even though he had that great outlet pass, was playing with Elvin Hayes.
Yeah.
And, most true Bullet fans, talk about Wes Unseld, but, Wes Unseld was playing with Elvin Hayes. And, even in today's game, Elvin would have been an all-star.
Yeah.
So I think the two complemented each other, and I was just fortunate to be able to come to a team where I could put my game on display, which was not traditionally a physical game. I didn't have to be physical anytime you're playing with Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld.
I know the game changed tremendously when Michael Jordan came onto the scene, and then the Bird and Magic and all those players. But could you talk a little bit about how special a player Oscar was when you played with him?
The specialty was that Oscar just played the game when statistics weren't important. He just went about his daily routine of being the best player in the league. And along the way, he put up just tremendous numbers when the emphasis was more on winning than it was on building up your stats. And Westbrook had an outstanding career, but that triple-double thing was something that was always put out there before him. but Oscar achieved that just by playing good basketball. It wasn't the focal of Oscar's career. And I think
of course
one
you're
of the
talking
biggest,
about you're talking about the season he averaged a triple-double.
Triple-double.
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest tributes that I saw given to the Big O was when we went to Madison Square Garden to play, there was nobody in the building more appreciated for his basketball skills than the appreciation that was shown to Oscar when he went to Madison Square Garden. And New Yorkers at that time were considered the most knowledgeable basketball fans in the world. And when Oscar went to play in Madison Square Garden, they always showed him the ultimate of respect. And I as a player and as a teammate of his, I was just overwhelmed to be there and to see the appreciation that basketball fans showed the Big O.
You know that the biggest part of CIAA Tournament week is the nightlife, Bobby. You said you're going to bed earlier these days. Are you able to get out and enjoy any of it this week while you're in town?
I mean, when I leave this arena at 9 o'clock, I'm headed right to the Hilton.
All right.
Non-stop. You know, 77-year-old guy, he there's nothing out there that I need.
I get it.
Other than to be able to get back to the hotel. Plus, my wife gonna probably be calling me about 10:15. So I need to be at a place that I can talk to her in private.
Are you trying to say there's not a lot of groupies after 77-year-old men?
No. Not only groupies, but Mother Nature is not cooperating anymore.
Bobby, it is truly an honor to spend time with you, and we really do want to make sure everybody's getting to the CIAA tournament. We are so glad that you are spending time in our city and helping get the word out for everybody.
Thank you. Thank
you. Of course. And look, much continued success to you guys.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you,
really
Bobby.
appreciate it.
Really an idol, man.
Bobby Dandridge. Stan. It's very rare that we have guests on that you're like that. You know.
He's very special.
That's really cool.
I mean, I've never met him, but
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Enjoyed that a great deal. And yes, Griffin, remind everybody one more time.
The CIAA Tournament, Baltimore, welcoming it back to the CFG Bank Arena, the Food Lion CIAA Men's and Women's Basketball Tournament. First game for today, about to tip off in about maybe 15 minutes. It started on Tuesday, and it's running through tomorrow. Tomorrow, championship Saturday, March 1st. So get your tickets now over at Ticketmaster.com. Again, the first game today on the women's side going to be Virginia State taking on Bowie State at noon. Ticketmaster.com for your tickets to the Food Lion CIAA Men's and Women's Basketball Tournament over at CFG Bank Arena.
What time
runs through Saturday?
What time is the championship game?
The women's championship game will be at 1 p.m. tomorrow, and then the men's game scheduled for 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock
tomorrow.
Yes,
I'm
going to try and get over to that.
I have been every year. I can't make it. This week was just.
Yeah. They mentioned it to me. They said, "Where the hell's Glenn?"
I don't blame them. I mean, I know they wanted to see me over there. I just way too many games this week for me. Way too much going on for it to work out, unfortunately. But definitely.
I know Griff will be there.
He also very busy week for Griffin.
Very
busy week. That's really the reason why he couldn't get over to say hi to you. Is he was studying. You don't realize that. Yeah. That's what.
He was prepping.
His buddy was holding up flashcards.
Yes. Yeah.
For the games he's working this week.
Sorry,
Yeah.
God,
So
I took
busy.
it the wrong way.
He
took
was
it
busy
entirely
studying.
the wrong way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want him to be bad at his job. I
Unbelievable, Stan.
got some questions about you as a leader, if I'm being totally honest.
Sickening.
I really hadn't. That's
when we
despicable.
It really is. When we come back in, we will get a tidbit and we will get two-bit or wind things down for a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
You're going to love February at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Sweeten your Valentine's Day with a chocolate bar February 13th and 14th. Pamper yourself and your partner with Valentine's Day spa discounts February 10th through 21st. Celebrate the Year of the Snake and win a Lunar New Year luxury brand collection February 28th. Plus, more ways to play, dine, and win all month. At Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we wind down for a Friday edition of the program. We got to get a tidbit. We got to get tubular, and then we'll get out of here. It's a busy weekend. Not just CIAA, but a lot going on this weekend. Why don't we go ahead and get a tidbit?
All right. I guess not a surprise. Jeremy Fowler said the Ravens are fully expected to release Marcus Williams.
That's not news.
You want the topics that we didn't get to in this week in baseball as well?
I like that tidbit. Short and sweet.
No.
Did we? I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to talk about Jose Altuve. The Astros are going to move him to left field.
I thought we knew that. I guess they said it, but I don't think we hadn't covered it yet. And obviously, but I wanted to know what we thought.
Here it comes. 37 players have moved from second base to left field.
I know Chuck Knobloch tried at one point because he couldn't play second base anymore.
Derek Bender is trying to get back into baseball as well.
I don't remember Derek Bender.
He is the guy who was tipping pitches last in the
that was that guy? Okay.
To make sure his team did not get into the postseason.
Oh, no. Who would take that guy?
And he's saying that he never did it, and the Twins organization was like, hey, just admit to it and say you're sorry, and we'll move on. And, he was like, but I don't know. That's not true. He's like, yeah, it is true. I wanted the season to end, but, I was never tipping pitches. And there's a whole story in The Athletic about it, and he's trying to get back into baseball, so...
No, Barney Feigl.
Brady Feigl. Show some respect.
Brady Feigl.
Either Brady Feigl. He's not even as good as the second-rate Brady Feigl.
Barney Feigl.
Yeah, old Barney.
Where do we want to go here? Let's do what the RAS score, the relative athletic scores from the combine.
I'm familiar with that.
So Shamar Stortz from Texas A&M put up a 10.0 last night.
Can you do higher than that?
No, you can't go higher than 10.0. But it is so the comparisons, at least his position, were the 2022 number 1 overall pick, the last linebacker / I guess it's an edge. Edge to get he got a 9.99 score. The 2022 number 1 overall pick.
Oh, it was
that guy.
Yeah.
God, why am I all of a sudden
that guy?
Jesus Christ, Bosa.
Nope, not Bosa.
No, who was Wait, what year?
22.
Oh.
Who was he drafted by?
Who the hell am I?
I want to tell you.
Why am I blanking on who the number 1 pick was in 2022?
Because I guess he's been okay, but he hasn't really lived up to
the number 1 pick. Hasn't lived up to the.
What was picked right after him?
Who was the number 1 pick? Who didn't live up to the. Oh, that was the Jaguars guy.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell was Trayvon Walker?
Yeah, Trayvon Walker. And it's like he's not been terrible. But,
No, he's definitely not been. Certainly not a number 1
because
pick.
Aiden Hutchinson went right after him.
Yeah, that would have been a better pick.
Derek Stinley, Sauce Gardner right after. Kayvon Thibodeau, top 5. So
Trayvon Walker. He had 10.5 sacks last year. I guess
Yeah,
he's starting to.
It's a great tidbit.
He had 10 sacks the year before.
But
he doesn't. We really are just measuring him against being the number 1 pick.
There have been, so I was like there have been a good number of guys that have measured at 10.0 on the RAS before, but I wanted to go to quarterbacks. There have been 4 quarterbacks, so this goes back to 1987, the relative athletic or relative, whatever, the RAS score, and 10.0 quarterbacks at the combine.
Since when?
Since 1987.
So I'm going to guess Andrew Luck was one of them because everybody raved about how.
No, not Andrew Luck.
Oh, because this is about athletic. This isn't really about.
athleticism.
This is just about pure athleticism.
Matthew Stafford.
No, I think it would have to be more like a. It's fun, more like a Lamar Jackson, but I'll say Michael Vick.
Not Michael Vick.
Lamar Jackson.
Not Lamar.
It's somebody, but it's somebody more like that.
How about RJ3?
RG3.
Not RG3. Good guesses, though.
How about Matt Ryan?
Not Matt Ryan. No, not Matt Ryan. I don't understand how this works. So, because I am looking up Lamar's now. Lamar got a 6.7. I don't understand.
Well, I don't
Is it 'cause
understand
he's
anything.
Like,
Shorter?
He's
I don't.
Not short. He's not that short though.
I don't know the answer.
Oh
to
wait a
this.
minute, hold on. I clicked the wrong Lamar Jackson. I clicked the.
Oh, this
Lamar
is Lamar
Jackson,
Jackson, the cornerback. That's definitely different. Yeah.
He got a 9. Or wait, no. Hold on. He got a what? Hold on. It just says NA. Is it because he didn't like? I don't understand. Because he didn't run the 40. That's why. Is that
Oh, okay.
I guess he was busy prepping for
this week and the rest of baseball, and so this is what we ended up getting on this. All right, I don't know, man. We're gonna be here all day.
4 10.0s. All right, so the years 1987.
Well, as you know, I remember everything about the 1987 draft.
1999.
1999.
2011 and 2023.
2011 and 2023. All right, 1987. And you're not going to tell me who the team was because then I'll get it immediately, I'm guessing. 1987.
This is quarterbacks. This is quarterbacks that have.
Yeah, that have been
hit
measured.
A 10 and measured at a 10.
I mean,
so
it wouldn't be. That wasn't Steve Young.
The rawest
Steve Young
athletes,
was,
size,
right?
Not Steve Young.
1987.
1987.
He spent 2 seasons with the Ravens. Was not drafted by them, but obviously.
Vinny Testaverde.
Vinny
right.
Testaverde, yes. Vinny Testaverde, the first quarterback to be a 10.0 on the RAS.
Okay.
Next year you said was
99.
99.
The 99 draft had a. Oh God, the 99 draft was.
God.
Was that? So that was after Peyton Manning and Riley. Was that Donovan McNabb's year?
Was that Donovan McNabb's year? 90?
But he wasn't number 1. Tim Couch would have been number 1. Was it Tim Couch?
No, it's not Tim Couch. Tim Couch was number 1. McNabb 2. This guy went.
Ryan Leaf.
This guy went 11th overall.
11th overall.
Not Ryan Leaf.
11th overall.
1 pick after Chris McAllister.
1 pick after who?
Chris McAllister. Which is irrelevant, but just interesting.
What's the quarterback that played
Ricky
for
Williams
the
draft
Bengals
as well?
and the Arizona Cardinals?
Carson Palmer.
Yeah, Carson Palmer.
No, not Carson Palmer.
Was after that, or he was after 99.
Fourth. Because Achilles Smith went 3rd overall.
I got nothing.
Let's see. He was drafted by the Vikings.
Oh, Dante Culpepper.
Dante Culpepper. A 10.0 on the RAS as well.
And what you said?
11 and 23.
11 would have been. That's the year before the Ravens won the Super Bowl. The 11 would have been. Oh, Christ. Is that Stafford? No, that's Cam.
Cam Newton.
Cam
Newton.
Cam.
10.0.
And then 23.
Mm-hmm.
It was only 2 years ago. I feel like I should remember things. That was a lot of quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
That was a lot of quarterbacks in that draft.
Stroud?
Not
yeah. Stroud. Who are the other quarterbacks? That would have been Bryce Young. But he's not that big, so yeah. Richardson.
Yep, Anthony Richardson.
Anthony
Richardson at 10.0.
All right.
Josh McCown was a 9.96 on the RAS as well. So
what was the guy who signed with the Bears?
RG3 was a 9.88, by the way. Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. They may not have a score for him because he didn't really
He doesn't
combine.
participate. Yeah, that's the problem. You have to participate in all the various things, which Shedeur Sanders, for example, is not doing this week.
Cam Ward said he's not going to throw either.
Yeah, I think that's
just
going to become the story moving forward. This is going to be.
I like the angle that people were trying to pitch, like, Cam Ward should, because then he'll be able to be like, oh, Shedeur Sanders didn't throw, I did, and
how much is he in debt?
Create a rivalry here.
Shedeur Sanders.
I didn't know Shedeur Sanders was in debt. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Is he really in debt?
Big story.
John in Little Rock wanted to know. This is like off topic, but he got it in. What are your feelings?
It's not Shedeur. It's Shiloh Sanders, the other son.
Oh,
he plays cornerback.
And what is he?
Apparently, Shiloh Sanders, the son of Buffalo of Deion Sanders, filed for bankruptcy in 2023 to avoid paying $11 million in damages to a former school security guard.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I don't know anything about that. I'd never heard that story before.
John in Little Rock wanted to know your feelings towards acquiring Keenan Allen and trading for edge rusher Harold Landry from the Titans.
I saw that Harold Landry was going to be allowed to seek a trade. I'm in this weird place with that where, like, do you have Harold Landry at home? You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to be opposed to more edge rushers, but to pay a premium, I feel like you need to be getting a premium player, and I'm not sure if Harold Landry is a premium player. He's been a productive player, but I don't know that he's a, like, true difference maker. He had 9 sacks this past season. The 2 years before that, he had 12 and 10.5. He's certainly reliable. He's productive, but is he everybody is game planning against him? It changes everything about your defense. I don't know if that's what I think Harold Landry is. Keenan Allen, yeah. I mean, like, again, in the world where you're only looking for wide receiver depth, it's funny because we would joke about it. We'd be like, oh, of course that's what the Ravens would do is go get Keenan Allen.
Right.
But in the past, they would go get Keenan Allen to be their number 1 receiver. And that's not what you need. So, no, I wouldn't be opposed to Keenan Allen because you're looking for depth now, and Keenan Allen still, presumably, has the ability to be a difference maker in the red zone. I'm not going to pretend like I watched a ton of Bears games last year, but I would assume that he still has that ability. Given where you are, and again, it's about the cost, but given where you are, yes, I would be fine. If Keenan Allen's still at a place where he's getting real money, and a lot of people talk about this free agent class is not great. It is a depleted free agent class.
T. Higgins and
by the way, I swear to God, I completely Pro Football Focus.
Of course, Deontay Johnson's out there.
Yeah, that's true. PFF did like a ranking of free agent wide receivers and tried to compare like who's the player who, when they reach free agency, this player most compares to. And T. Higgins obviously is at the top of the list. And I had totally memory hold this dude. Like their comparison for T. Higgins, I was like, I forgot this guy existed.
The wide receiver comp?
Yeah, the wide receiver comp for when he reached free agency was Kenny Galladay. Like,
well, I don't know if I want him.
Yeah, that's what I was like, God. That's not the comp that you're rooting for is T. Higgins. His camp probably
whoever
hoping,
wrote that must be a Bengals
Yeah,
fan.
right? Probably hoping to make that disappear from the internet. I'm like, God. But then you forget how productive Kenny Galladay
was for
you just
2.5
you
seasons.
memory hold that because it fell off the face of the planet. Kenny Galladay was the comparison.
Stephon Diggs is out there. Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin coming off an injury. Those are the other top receiver free agents. Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, sure. By all means. All right.
Marcus Robinson. There we go.
Yeah.
Reunion.
Sure. Let's get tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, here's what's coming up this weekend, totally tubular-wise. It is a very busy weekend with lots of hoops, lacrosse, and even some boxing that matters this weekend. As Griffin mentioned, CIAA Tournament throughout the day, starting at noon today, semifinal day, and then tomorrow the championships. All the games today on ESPN+. Tomorrow the women's championship is at 1 on ESPN+, the men's championship at 4 on ESPNU. And again, get to CFG Bank Arena to check it all out. Tonight, Gary Stein on the call for Towson and UMBC lacrosse at 6 o'clock on ESPN+. Orioles Twins, if you've got MLB TV today, it's there's a Minnesota audio broadcast at 1:05. Zach Eflin and Zebby Matthews is the pitching matchup there. Tomorrow night, Tank Davis, Lamont Roach, 8 o'clock is when the card starts. I think walks will be around 11:30, somewhere in that neighborhood. On Prime Video pay-per-view for Premier Boxing Champions. Maryland Hoops at Penn State tomorrow at noon on Big Ten Network. Maryland Notre Dame Lacrosse at 1 o'clock tomorrow on ACC Network. The top 2 teams in the country squaring off. And so, of course, the game is in Atlanta. Just sure, why not?
Hotbed for lacrosse.
I mean, actually, there is a big lacrosse. They got an indoor team down there. They had an MLL team. But, yeah, just weird that that's where the Maryland Notre Dame game ends up being. But trying to grow the game in that market.
Is it at the big stadium?
It's at the Georgia Tech football stadium.
Okay.
It's at Bobby Dodd Stadium.
Bobby Dodd.
I don't know. Loyola's at home tomorrow for lacrosse against Colgate at noon on ESPN+. Also on ESPN+ tomorrow. BU Navy lacrosse at noon. Vermont UMBC hoops at 1. And remember, UMBC beat Vermont badly on the road when they played them the first time this season. It's very weird. Loyola Navy hoops tomorrow at 4. Coppin Delaware State hoops tomorrow at 4 as well. Morgan's at UMES tomorrow at 4. Hampton Towson tomorrow, 4 o'clock on Flow Sports and MeTV Baltimore. Tomorrow's Orioles game is on television. Masson locally and the MLB Network, the rest of the country, as Paul Skeens slated to pitch for the Pirates against Cade Povich.
Is that at Ed Smith?
That is at Ed Smith, yes.
World Series preview a little bit.
Might be.
Cade Povich versus Paul Skeens.
Sunday, Maryland women against Ohio State, 4:30 on Fox Sports 1. How about Cheyenne Sellers last night? 21 fourth-quarter points as Maryland won on the road at Indiana. And also on Sunday, no TV but radio for Orioles-Phillies. I know Dean Kramer is going to start that game as well. Everything else, go to GlennClarkRadio.com. Non-sports, of course, headlined by... there's some award show, I know.
Yeah. Well, but you're kind of that's gonna be secondary because I don't know why you didn't mention the ASUN tournament starts Sunday night as well.
Yeah,
the very first round with the 7
point. That's why Shane Gillis is hosting SNL. He's plugging.
He's plugging the ASUN tournament.
That's correct.
I'm always looking for a
big
basketball
fan,
guy, especially ASUN basketball specifically.
Right.
You were also bearing the lead with obviously the MAC men's hocky semifinal with Stevenson Mustangs.
That's a great point. That's the first ever.
Yeah, first ever MAC hockey semifinal.
How about that?
So I wonder who'll be on the call for that. Who got that gig?
That guy, very handsome, I've heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what I heard. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah. It'll be 3 o'clock on GoMac Sports TV for everyone out there. The Oscars are Sunday nights. Conan and it will be hosting the Oscars. And we all can't wait to see who wins all the awards.
Of all of the movie I've seen, I enjoyed A Real Pain. That's what I've got for you.
Which I guess, Stan, you won't necessarily be watching the Oscars, but you'll be tuning in right after because the new season of American Idol premieres right after the Oscars on ABC Sunday night.
Trying to get the big post-Oscars bump, huh?
I'll be watching both of those.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're unlike Stan and you want to watch real cinema, CW will be showing Paul Blart Mall Cop at 8 o'clock as well Sunday night.
Can't miss that.
New episode of White Lotus.
I can't believe they put that on up against the Oscars. By the way, how about the HBO just not caring about the Oscars and being like, we're going to put our shows on anyway?
Yeah, White Lotus out there on Sunday night. Yellow Jackets as well on Showtime. New episode of 1923 on Paramount Plus. You mentioned Shane Gillis with Tate McRae on SNL Saturday night. And those are the big ones. New episode of Severance on Apple TV.
And Reacher dropped the new episode.
Yeah, last night was Reacher, a new episode of that.
Episode 4 of Reacher.
And Stan's already
memorized.
Stan gets he's watched it 4 times, in fact, since then.
Stan gets them early. He threatens to spoil it for me.
And Griffin's like, please, I just want to watch the show. Are we good?
Reacher killed.
No, I don't want to know. Stan.
God. It was a bit that we used to do. When I was doing 8 to Midnight in Phoenix, on Thursday nights, after we would pre-record the final segment of our show, and we would duck out to go to a midnight screening of whatever the big.
Of course.
And we had to deal with Harkins the cinemas, and so we'd invite listeners to come with us. It became a whole thing. Oh, I definitely remember.
Iron Man wasn't out.
We did Superbad. We did as one of those. We did I remember the Simpsons movie was one of those. Smoking. We did anything Smoking Aces was definitely a movie we did. But then the bit we would. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, one of the Iron Mans, whether it was the first one or the second one, there was definitely an Iron. I think it was the first one. Was definitely one of those.
Yeah. That was 08?
In I was thinking 07.
Oh, it came out in 07.
07. Maybe it's 08. You might be right. Moral of the story being, the bit was. We would go on the radio the next night to talk about
2008.
2008. All right, fair enough.
So was that that was after?
No, I was still there.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah,
okay.
I was definitely there. It definitely was it was on the list. But we would go on the air and we'd say, "All right, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about the movie that we saw last night. So if you want to see it this weekend, maybe turn your radio down for the next 3 minutes, and then come back to us." Saying, "All right, Iron Man died." That was what we would do.
They killed off Iron Man. First Iron Man.
Every time.
Mr. Superbad died.
Yes, correct.
They killed the Superbad.
All of the Superbads die. It was the same bit, and people got a real kick out of it. I gave Chad Dukes credit for that. That was a good bit. All right, we good?
I think so, yeah.
Right, let's wrap up. Stan, you will be gone.
I will be gone.
You'll be checking in from down in Sarasota.
I'll be checking in. Luke will be checking in a little bit with you. We'll be doing some special features from down there, and I don't know I don't know if I can see the next couple episodes of Reacher.
Oh God!
I might have to binge
you
3
can
or 4.
You're bringing your
when
computer
I get back.
with you, right?
Yeah, but
you can access
smart TV
Prime Video on.
But I got to do my studying for 2 fantasy drafts.
That's a good point. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Not going to work. Well, Griffin will call and tell you about it if you'd like. He'll call and just describe it to you.
He's not going to. He's going to binge the whole thing when it's over. I can smell it.
I can smell busy
it.
Play-by-play season. Yeah. Stan, appreciate it. Thank you,
guys.
Thank you. Thanks today to Bobby Dandridge. Thanks also to Bruce Weber and to Bo Smolka. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Can You Take Me Higher?
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. On Monday's show, an early appearance from Patrick Stevens next week because of his schedule.
Tournament, obviously.
Yes, that's what he said. He's like, I got to get on Monday. And Zach Britton,
Zach Britton's scheduled to
going to join us. He spent some time as a guest instructor down.
Is Tirico coming on Monday?
No, not this time. But the fact that you're going away next Friday,
I'll let him know.
He's going to be on several times.
Might be the time. All right. Also, don't forget Paul and Zach the Bat Around Sunday at 5 o'clock, and I'll be.
That's an Oscars preview, right?
I believe so, and I'll be with Rita on Sunday, 12 to noon over on 105.7.
I know we're rushing out here. 3 Minnesota players are feeling fortunate after narrowly avoiding a car crash while driving to Monday's road exhibition game. Reliever Jorge Alcala, Edouard Julien, and outfielder Matt Waller. Wallner. Were driving together behind. Wait a minute.
They were 2 separate cars. Yeah,
two
they were
separate cars. Akala was in the lead car. Outfielder Wallner and infielder Julien were driving together behind him when a speeding vehicle coming from the opposite direction drove through a grass median and went flying through the air, barely missing both cars. The players said.
It was a wild story.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
That's
Fortunately,
terrifying.
it looked like everyone was okay. The Twins players were not. They didn't get the car just went over both of their cars.
That's unbelievable, man. That is terrifying.
Julien said he was alerted to the near miss when Wallner, who was at the wheel of their car, began to scream obscenities. I've never heard Wallner scream scared like that. Julien said,
right.
That's
response.
And just see a car that's in a ditch, like in the middle of the road, just going through the bushes. And going through trees, that's amazing.
I dated a girl who went to Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania.
Stan?
And, what Muhlenberg?
Muhlenberg's in...
no, what's the team nickname?
Oh, the Mules.
Yes, that is correct. The Mules.
Right? Yeah.
So we were driving up one time, and I was going with her little brother. We were going up to visit. And I swear to God, on the other side of what's the toll, the highway in Pennsylvania? What is that?
70? No, 76.
Turnpike. Yes, thank you.
Pennsylvania.
I swear to God, we watched a car like in front of us flip, and we're like, I'm trying to drive,
like on your side of the road. Or
no,
on the
they're on the car,
side.
but it's coming right at it. It wasn't going to get to us.
Yeah,
but it's like coming right at us, and it's that thing where your brain can't process what it is that you're seeing because it's so. But we're watching this car flip in the air, and I'm still like, I'm processing. He's processing. I'm like, I got to pull over. We got to see what's going. But like you're on the turnpike. It's not exactly a pull over. Like it was one of the scariest. Now we did. I mean, like we just pulled up a little bit further, but then we're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So we decided we were just gonna call, like 911 and say there's nothing we can do in this spot, but you should know about this. But yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying as hell, man. All right, so hey, funsies.
Baseball.
Be careful out there driving,
good
folks.
way to wrap up.
Dan, you're going to that state, so be careful.
That's a good point, right? Cars flying everywhere.
Well, at least the Tates won't be there.
It's a good point. Good point. All right. Have a great thanks to all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, as well as Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, CIAA Tournament, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas Inn, MSAA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go everybody. Duke sucks.